Kamal, nice to see you again. I'm recording videos for everyone because it can be beneficial to sort of see how someone interacts with material as they are seeing it. I have glanced at everyone's submissions, including yours here. I just haven't really read through them that closely. And so I'm going to, here's my promise to you. I'm going to be as just sort of open and honest as I can and helpful as I can through this process. Because I know that you know this is important, and it is important, and I want this to be all set up for success here. So I'm going to start first with the cover letter because that's where I would presumably start if I was an employer or hiring somebody. And I come in here, and what do I start looking at? So it's with excitement that my interest develops in Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and Anime. I'll apply for a graphic design position because I have an interest in this field. Okay, this is where things start to maybe go off the rails a little bit. It's possible that you were doing this for like the generic aspect of it, but if you had actually applied for a position, then by definition, yes, I would know that you had already applied. And so the idea that you will apply is not particularly helpful. I'm guessing that's probably because you were just doing this as sort of a forward-thinking thing, so I won't overthink it too much, but just be aware of it. I'm a senior at IU Indianapolis. My major is media arts and science, specializing in digital storytelling. I worked on Illustrator with lots of tools, such as text tools, pen tools, shapes. I played with different tools. Put a big rabbit in the middle of the street, and people saw a big rabbit and enjoyed seeing it. I took a picture of my eyes and painted with an eyedropper. This is where I'm going to start skimming here a little bit. Through my innovative outreach efforts, I learned lots of things, such as making a flyer of delicious ice cream, putting images inside the flyer, pizza design, put toppings, cheese, and sauce on it, an IUI rebrand. That's not a complete sentence there. I don't have a background for what this is here, particularly again, since this is the first that I'm seeing it, right? I don't have a concept for this. I don't know what this pizza design is. I don't know what this other stuff is. I did bouncing ball animation. Developing a career is the main focus. Sharing thoughts and ideas with people. It's like, yeah, I would think of developing a career would be the main focus. I want to work for a company because my interest also developed in software such as Illustrator, Photoshop, and Anime to create different things with different software. I will be a good graphic designer as a logo designer, package designer, or concept artist. I will be very excited to become a logo designer. That's basically saying the same sentence over again as the first one. This is a bit odd. This is an odd way to phrase this, and I don't know what you were quite going for here. I think what you were trying to say is I'll work best as a logo, package, or concept artist. That would make some sense to me, but you don't need both of those sentences there. I'm excited to give you a positive response from your company. That's not how that goes. Like, are you reviewing me? Is that how this is working? That's not how that works at all. I am glad to see everyone. I think that what you might have been saying was I look forward to seeing everyone, or I look forward to meeting you. That's probably what you were after. You wouldn't say I'm glad to see everyone. Yeah, I don't know about this. I feel like if I was looking at this, I would probably pass on this pretty quickly, only because the grasp of the English is pretty rough. This is another opportunity here for like a Grammarly on the free tier, or even just to pump this through a chat GPT to have it sort of zhuzh up the grammar a little bit, because I'm guessing, and I don't know because you haven't confirmed, but I'm just guessing that English must be a second language for you, which is totally respectable. I mean, I only speak the one language, so whatever. But we have to engage with the world a little bit as it actually is, and part of that is recognizing that this is an economic transaction. This isn't charity, of course. This is just purely an economic transaction. And what I want to know as an employer is, how are you going to help me make more money? Because if you cost me more money than you can make me, then this is an economic transaction that doesn't make any sense. And as I posted the announcement earlier this week with the examples from some other people about, everyone's opening paragraphs on this stuff is kind of the same. I wish this was you-centric, and what I mean by that is, imagine that I was going to sell you a car, and I said, hey Kamal, I have this car. It's red. This is my favorite color. I loved this car because it was the first car that I took a road trip in and so forth. That's not a great way to sell you the car because, quite frankly, why would you care? Why do you care what my favorite color is? Why do you care that I loved this car? Why do you care about my road trip if you weren't there? A better way to sell that car would be if I said, Kamal, you are never going to have any trouble with this car. It's going to be super reliable. You're going to love the fact that it has new tires, a new battery, and the transmission is in great shape. You're also going to never have trouble on a cold central Indiana morning with this car. You're going to be able to go outside and start this car with no issues, even on the coldest mornings. And it's not going to give you any trouble for 10 years. That is a much better way and compelling way to sell that car, because everything I said wasn't, I love this, I like this is my car, this is about me. It was you, right? And it's focused on your benefits and your concerns and problems. I would love if this opening bit here talked more about what you will do for me. And part of that may be difficult to do if you don't actually know quite what you're applying to here. But it sounds like you're kind of in this like a design, like as you said here, right? Like logo design, package, and concept artists. And so looking at some of those things is like, okay, so if you're saying logo designer on the very top of this and a package designer, which is something that's really hard to do and to do well because I've done that, this is something that now I'm going to go look at the resume and the cover letter because I want to start seeing some of this stuff. But I want to know, how are you going to do this to benefit me, right? And let's see here. I'm going to look at the resume next. May 2025 coming up here. Education, Bachelor of Science. I'm glad that you wrote that in there. It's a useful way to pull things from the job description if you're applying to larger employers who have applicant tracking systems. I mentioned this in the announcement earlier this week, so if you haven't read that, please go look at it. By the way, one other thing that I noticed is that you did put the comma in here at the top of this, but you did not over here in your cover letter. So small bit of detail there for that. But I'm glad that you put the bachelor in there. Some people just write media arts and science, which implies that they should know it implies that I should know what that is. I know what that is, but a lot of people don't know what media arts is. So technical skills, selected project experiences, design issues, character design, work experience, Bath and Body Works, Staples, and Hobby Lobby. So I'm not going to put you off putting these things in here. I will just tell you the same thing that I tell everybody, that when you're applying for professional positions for the first time, adults know this, like this is just like sort of the way of the world, right? Like the universe operates in a way that we all get these jobs working in retail or like food service or something like that. And then we all get into the professional work. And so this stuff is irrelevant to me. If I was hiring you for like logo design work, none of this matters to me at all. I pay it literally no attention. It could literally vanish off of this resume and you would be no worse for the wear for it. The only way that I would leave it on there is if you were applying for positions that actually talked about, I don't know, doing like public facing work or something, or managing cashiers, checkouts, that sort of thing. But in a professional setting, that's just not a thing that you're going to do, most likely. So, I'm not going to put you off this because this is your work experience. I get it. It's just not something that you necessarily need to be all that concerned about keeping there. Okay. I'm going to guess this is your portfolio. This link, by the way, should totally be on your cover letter and your resume. Welcome to my portfolio. Feel free to click on my projects and find out what I love to do. Well, look at this logo design thing here. I like that there's a description down here. So many people just sort of throw this stuff as if it's just like some big amorphous blob onto a page. It was an interesting project to designed a logo. Throughout the project, I created own logo design to create a new designs. I used a little bit fonts used. Mostly logos were designed in different shapes to looks creative. Same as the cover letter. The it's a difficult hump for me to get over as an employer. Some of the language barrier here. Um, you would be very well served if you ran through like a chat GPT for everything, or used Grammarly and get Grammarly installed even on the free version, because it would find all these little typos, like, you know, to make my own logo. It's not made, own, designed a logo. Um, it would help you catch those things, and so the appearance of it would be so much better. I'm gonna go back to this. There's the rabbit, I see. That's interesting. I don't know what the concept for it should be. I mean, I guess it's just kind of unusual, right? It's just like, here's a big rabbit, I guess. Kamal, I'm gonna tell you something that I need you to understand from sort of the bottom of my heart is difficult, but it's because I care, and I need to sort of prepare you for some. I just need. It's my job, both as your teacher, to sort of help. And here's the thing: the work in your portfolio, which I believe is probably the bulk of a lot of the work that you've done in this program, is just not very good. Uh, it's just it's just not very good, in the standpoint that I look at this and I recognize that this is potentially, probably, the first time that you were involved in, say, Photoshop or Illustrator. Like, I suspect that you did this in Illustrator, I'm guessing. No, Photoshop. Okay. So you're in Photoshop, and I'm guessing this is about maybe the first time that you've done this. Um, it's just not great. Um, Partially because it's pretty crude, I guess is the word that I would use for this. Looking at something like this Planet Smoothie thing, you know, I I wish somebody could have like, if I looked at this and someone handed this to me, I'd be like, well, we're definitely not going to use Times New Roman as our font for this up here, because it's just sort of the default, right? Or like Garamond, which maybe is this may be Garamond actually. Um, there's just not much there, and you have competitors, right? Let me pull up your competitors. I had this when I was a freshman. My freshman year, I sat down in a New Media 101 class, and the instructor, Derwin Talon, said to everyone, look to your left, look to your right. That person will be a competitor of yours someday. And he was right. There's another young woman just in this class who has like a graphics portfolio here, for example. And if we just look at something like this, versus something like your smoothie thing here is just one example. Like, these are just totally different, right? These are just at a different level, and I can respect that, right? That it's just on a different level. Um, but it's a problem for you, right? It's not necessarily your fault, but it is your problem. It's a problem for you, because these are the people like in a stack, right? Like, I've got multiple people, and it's like, if I had to hire a graphic designer, would I hire the person who did something like this, or would I hire somebody who did something like this? And it just would be no contest. And my advice for you is slow down and focus on quality at a level that you have never focused before. And what I mean by both those things is, you have to be so good that people can't ignore you. And for example, in this Planet Smoothie poster, what if instead of doing 3 glasses, you would do just one? And that the just one would give you the opportunity to really stretch yourself in terms of how you can do the Illustrator work in there. I'm assuming it was Illustrator. Maybe it was Photoshop. But like, what would you do to make it like the best cup that you've ever done? And how would that work? Um, I suppose it's possible that from a design aesthetic standpoint, like this may be purposeful, but it's hard to imagine that all of these things are like that. Like, for example, these logos aren't really so much logos as it just feels like maybe this was the first time that you used the pen tool, for example, in Illustrator. There are some shapes in here and stuff, but this just like, why is Dell written like this and a little starburst? Like, these things are not at a particularly high level. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward stuff. And so I don't know that it's particularly compelling. And I feel like that sucks for you. I know that this potentially maybe hurts a little bit to hear, but I feel like it's part of my job. I feel like I owe it to you to be able to say this privately between us. And I wish we were having a conversation right now, and I hope that we can and we will about this. But for this purpose here, we're talking about, like, how can you help somebody, or how can you, help some employer provide value for them so that when you're looking for a job, which I'm assuming that you're going to be doing in very short order, what will that be like? And one thing that I don't notice in here is an internship. It looks like you've had, some pretty standard, retail jobs in there. This up to December 2022. So I don't really know like what you're doing currently, but what I would like to see is we have to get this cover letter in a place that's a little more polished, and we need your portfolio to be a little more polished. I wonder what the about page is. Oh, there you are. I wish there was more of you on this. Like, there's a picture of you, but there's nothing else about you, and so that kind of defeats the point of an about page. I wish there was more Komal. Give me more Komal. There needs to be some text here about you. A little bit of a backstory. Where are you from? How'd you get here? I mean, obviously your resume, you came from New York, right? And so it's like, oh, how did you, it feels like there's a story there. I'd like to hear what that is, both personally and professionally. I think that what we need to do is we need to get you into we need to get you doing some coursework or some extra independent work here to have more polished, better presentable portfolio items. And I think that we can do that, although what sucks right now is that we're so late in the game, but there's no time like the present. And so I want to have a little bit of a conversation, write back to me a little bit, or communicate with me about what you're experiencing, about the problems that you faced. Maybe I'm misreading a lot of this, and if I am, please tell me. But at the same time, if you think, yeah, maybe I kind of get that, I wish that I could do something, but I just don't know what, I can give you ideas for some things to do, some real world scenario sort of stuff that have that you could point to in your portfolio that could be potentially kind of interesting, that would give this some heft, right? Because I feel like your portfolio would be better served if you got rid of a few of these things, like this character design thing, the design chart, this logos thing. These are not particularly good logos. As like logos and icons go, what's his name? Louis Mantia. This guy. Let's look at his icons, right? Like, here's a guy who used to work for Apple, does some amazing just icons, right? And you could imagine how some of these things get turned into logos too, right? And it's got this great portfolio of things all by year, which is kind of interesting. So you can sort of see how his design aesthetic evolves and how it works, like all the way back to like 2006, right? Like, there's a big difference between here he is in 2006 with some Pokeballs, all the way up here to like these beautiful things that have these wonderful textures and colors and gradients and stuff. And so, like, I'm not saying that you're competing against Louis Mantia in this. I'm just saying there's a big world out there, and I feel like we need to up the heft in this. So work on the cover letter. get some of the typos and stuff squared up. I'm going to do for you what I've been doing for everyone else, which is I'm going to put a 50 in here on this. That's only because, not to say that you're failing this or that we're not even half done with this project, it's that we're halfway done with this conversation, which is the exact same thing that I've been telling everybody else. And so get that stuff sort of revised up. Let's communicate here in this box a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions, and let's see if we can get this punched up. Okay, we can do this.